Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Greg Chapman Show. This is a show mainly meant for facilitators and trainers conducting workshops virtually or face to face on any kind of behavioral topic from leadership to self awareness to high performing teams at all. The idea of this long form conversation is to help fellow trainers and facilitators learn techniques, change mindsets, or bust many facilitation myths, even tips and tricks from facilitators who are masters of their craft from across the world. If you are starting or you're tenured well into the game of facilitation, you'll find something here for you. Today's guest on the show is Yaron Jiv. I hope I have pronounced that well. Yaron he's a psychotherapist and has been one for more than 37 years, specializing in individual, couple, and group therapy. He's also a university lecturer at the Zinman College of Physical Education and Sports Sciences at the Wingate Institute, Israel. He's also a clinical social worker and he has a PhD in clinical psychology, specializing in Gestalt therapy methods. He's also been a Gestalt therapist for more than 30 years, graduating from the Gestalt Institute of Cleveland. He's also written a textbook, which is called The Group Journey, the Handbook for Effective Facilitation. He's conducted several workshops, several kinds of workshops, from parents' education to coaching the Gestalt way, to self-awareness, and many, many more. What I like about Yaron's workshops is that they're very rich. Of course, he's a master of his craft par excellence, and his workshops are extremely rich. He draws upon psychotherapy, draws upon Gestalt, psychodrama, Zen Buddhism, meditation, body work, and many, many more disciplines. Welcome to the show, Yaron, and I hope I got all of that right.
Yeah, you articulated it right. The only thing is the surname, which is Ziv, Z-I-V, not Ziv, but Ziv,
Ziv,
which means in Hebrew, light.
Light. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. So Yaron, straight out of the gate, I just wanted to ask you, what has helped, if you look back 35 years, how has this journey been in terms of what has helped you up your facilitation game?
Well, I always liked being with people, and it was very important for me to learn and to know how to interact with people. And it goes back to my childhood that it was not the case. My childhood was not very interactive. I was very, uh, let's say, in very solitude. I'm the second child of a Holocaust survivor, and I have two sisters. However, I was like, the weirdo. I was like the kind of person that you would guess, what is he doing? What's going on with him? What's wrong with him? I called myself many years the social autistic person. I was very interested in books. I was very interested in learnings, but I was not like the regular teenager. I was not like the regular person who would be very socially active. So I guess it turned my life to the point that I decided that I want to complete my dark side. When someone lives in total solitude and does not know how to interact, there is a saying thing that somebody teaches what he has to learn.
Mm.
So that's what I did.
Being the son of a Holocaust survivor, that's quite something. And when you talk about your darkness, I have seen you facilitate upfront. I've been part of it, and it's quite something, Yaron. You've inspired me. You've mentored me. And what I can say is that in a way, you've taken that darkness and treated it as fertile ground that has given rise to, your therapy, your practice, and how you've helped many, many people because of it. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. I think that one of the motives that really was there for me was the fact that my father was never the kind of person who really shared about what he has gone through. You know, the Holocaust survivors are divided to two groups. These people who talk a lot and share everything about what they've gone through in the misery, and the other group doesn't say anything. The other group is totally in silence, and it was only thanks to his grandson who had to do a work in school asking about the history of their grandparents.
Mhm.
So he had to go and said, Grandpa, I have a mission at school. I have to talk to you about it. How was your childhood? And you've got to answer. That
Oh,
was the whole story about concentration camp and all the story, the horrible story about the Holocaust. And that's how I've learned about my father. So it was very important for me to learn a lot, and that's how I encountered one of the great psychiatrists in the world, named Professor Viktor Frankl, who was a medical doctor in Auschwitz-Birkenau,
oh, you've
and
met
I
Viktor
had the
Frankl?
privilege to study with him
Y- y-
to learn a lot about how these people survived for one day. And I've been in Auschwitz a couple of times
Wow.
to learn and to know how you can really survive in that horrible place. And Viktor Frankl taught all of us about hope, the ability to have hope even in the most miserable situation that you are. And I think I've taken that, first of all, personally, and then as a teacher and as a guide,
Mm.
to have the ability to convert every horrible situation that we are, and we are in terms of lives and different ups and downs, and really to turn that into a positive and optimistic attitude. And I do owe a lot of gratefulness to Viktor Frankl, who really who really was an inspiration for me for what he did personally in his own life. I've learned a lot about my father, how he survived, and how he came back to from Europe to Israel, fought in all Israeli wars, and although he would not speak a lot,
Mm.
he would really give this message to his children: go and live your life. I took that almost as an oath, and I try to do it in every day of my life.
Wow, that's some experience and huge meeting Viktor Frankl and being a part of his workshop, part of his training. Um,
Part of his training, part of his workshop, learning logotherapy, but mainly it was the training for Holocaust survivors' children.
mm,
It was
oh,
mainly it was conducted for therapists who themselves were part of the Holocaust survivor. So it had a personal touch. It
mhm,
was not a theoretical academic university course. It was a training for therapists who were themselves in their childhood part of this Holocaust environmental influence through their whole childhood, and that gave a total different taste to this, because every one of us could share about how he or she grew up in that atmosphere, and learning from the person who was there physically and survived, and as a therapist, it was unbelievable to absorb him and to get for him all the tools that he used being in that uh, horrible place. And I could identify so much because when I shared my own story about the Holocaust, for example, let me give you just an example. It
mhm.
was not allowed, in a way, allowed to speak about Holocaust.
Sorry,
Now,
guys,
I
bit of a
said it,
glitch.
it
Yeah.
was a special training because
Mhm,
all of us as participants,
mhm,
we were children of Holocaust survivors.
mhm,
So it was a complete a complete, very special phenomena combining personal experience with therapeutic, skills.
Mm.
And when Viktor Frankl talked about how he survived every day, and I could identify with my father, and other people could identify with their own parents, and being a therapist, it gave a total different meaning to the work that we do when we work with crisis, when we work with crisis intervention, we work with people who suffer. And it is completely, it's not like reading from a book. It was
Completely
sharing
different.
every
Yeah,
moment of your life.
absolutely. And quite something, being part of that experience, part of being face to face with Viktor Frankl. If you could tell us a little bit about what he was like a facilitator, um, how did he bring his experience to a room and in such a powerful way? Any one or two pieces on that?
Well, I can recall, it's been quite a long time, but I can recall this was not, um, the time that people go to learn how to facilitate a group.
Mhm.
It's not an official, like what I did. I created a facilitation training school for
Mhm.
3 years. These times, people just brought their own experience, they brought their own learnings. So it was not like a regular workshop facilitation.
Mhm.
It was more of a sharing story. He was a very, very good storyteller, and we could ask questions, and then about his own experience. We could share our own experiences, and then we could, of course, take it into regular events with our students or with our clients. So that's basically how he is. He was a very, very inspiring person, talking about his own experience in the camp, and how he survived, and how he what thoughts. Especially, it was so interesting to learn about regular daily life. I can recall one event that he talked about, which was so powerful for me. Yeah, he used to talk about how simple things made his own life totally different. In time of despair, in time of that you don't know whether you're going to be alive the next moment, or you're going to end your life in a gas chamber.
Mhm.
He, I remember one event that he talked about, that suddenly, on the regular day of being in Birkenau, he recognized a bird going up in the sky.
Mhm.
And that special thing, think about it, that when you go outside, you see birds, you hear them all the time. You don't make a big fuss of it. You don't make a big deal out of it. Birds are everywhere.
Mm.
He said, I never forget that. That little bird that I saw when I looked up to the sky gave me the aspiration that it's worth to live one more day, because one day I will be outside of this fence. One day I will be able to not only to relive, but to really see this beauty of nature.
Wow.
That was such an inspirational moment. Sometimes we just take things for granted,
Yeah.
and we don't give them enough attention.
Yeah.
you know and that bird that he spoke about, and I recall to this day that his eyes were sparkling when he spoke about this bird that was up in the sky, because people didn't look up. The only
Mm.
thing that went looked was the smoke of the gas chamber, and they saw the crematorium. That will be their end, in the end of the line, whether it's going to be now, tomorrow, next week, or you spoke about losing sense of time. There is no time. I mean, you don't know. If it's yesterday, today, because uh, uh, you're there forever, and it's just a time that he spoke about. Remember, he spoke about that you lose a sense of time, in the sense that the only sense of time is how close you are to be executed to the gas chamber. So, when you see this bird, and I remember telling myself, my gosh, this is amazing how he spoke about this bird. And the other thing that I recall that he spoke about that, he said, he told us, you eat like everybody else, right? You have a fork, you have a knife, you have a spoon. You take it for granted. I mean, everybody eats with a fork, with a fork and a knife and a spoon. But for us, it was like we were like dogs. We were giving this, soup to drink like dogs, like animals. And the fact that I could create a spoon with it, I could create it. You did a creative craft, and I could drink the soup with a spoon was a sense of being a human being again. And I think one of the most important things that I've taken from him was appreciating and accrediting small things in life that makes a difference. They do make a difference. And that's what I try to
Totally over
teach
the
my
top.
clients.
Yeah, totally over the
Yep.
top. And as you're narrating this, two pieces really stand out for me. One, like you rightly said, how we take so much of beauty, so much of blessing, so much of abundance for granted. And two, uh, it is the not so good times um, that he had that actually got him to actually start looking at the simplest things and getting even the simplest things, getting a ray of hope to survive and surviving because of the simplest things. So that's huge. Um, I want to change gears slightly, Yaron, over here and ask you, looking back, it's been what, 35, 37 years, maybe more of your taking therapy and these various disciplines and jamming them into a classroom for various kinds of groups, from trauma survivors to um, professionals, to parents and teachers. Now, if we wind the hand of the clock back 35, 37 years more, and you're at the outset, knowing that this is how you're going to go into the future, what would you do differently? How would you approach facilitation differently? Is there anything you do differently or not?
Huh. That's a challenging question, Greg. That's a
And I
challenging and
can come back
very,
to that in a bit, but yeah. So if you'd like me to, yeah.
yeah. It's good. You give me a moment of, reflecting right now as I do
Mhm.
reflect and what I would. I think what comes right up the hat is that I would.
So let me
Now
button
I'm
there.
better.
Now you better.
I'm better at this.
Uh-huh.
But going back to the beginning of my career, I would have changed the way I would say interact with people,
Hmm.
because I used to be very blunt.
Hmm.
I used to be very direct, too
Hmm.
direct, and I was not really myself. I could admit right now, I could admit this is a moment of confession.
Hmm.
Okay, it's a moment of
Hmm.
confession right now. I tried, and I'm sure that everybody else does the same, but I'm talking about myself. I tried to imitate
Okay.
facilitators and therapists that I learned with. And one of the great facilitators that I did not have the chance to learn with, but it was my great source of inspiration, was, of course, Fritz Perls,
Hmm.
who is the founder of Gestalt therapy.
I was just
Now,
going to say
Fritz,
that did the directness, sorry to interrupt, but did the directness, did the bluntness uh, have anything to do with Fritz Perls? You're talking about
yeah,
imitation. Huh? Yeah. Okay.
exactly. And listening to his talks and watching him in videos, and and that time I did not have a broad and aspect that I could integrate to myself. And when one learns a new technology or a new methodology or a new modality, it's so natural that one tries to imitate the master. So I think I've adopted this bluntness and directness with no mercy. and So in one hand, I forgive myself because that's the only way to learn.
Mhm.
In another way, I would have liked me to be more gentle and not that
Mhm.
blunt.
Mhm.
I've incorporated
Mhm.
different aspects. For example, then meeting Milton Erickson was a complete opposite way of approaching people,
Mhm.
because Milton used to be so soft and giving this storytelling of giving examples in such a soft and solid way. So I'm like, I'm like Magimix, food processor.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm like a food
Um,
processor that when you see me right now, you see me as the autobiography, all the masters that
mhm.
I've had the privilege to encounter.
Mhm.
And today I'm more gentle. I convey my message,
Mhm.
but in a more gentle way.
Mhm.
So I would have, if I could replay, I would have liked to meet Milton Erickson before I meet Fritz Perls, not the other way around.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's happened to me a few times. Now, food processor, food mixer, um, NLP draws from neurolinguistic programming, draws from Gestalt as much as it does from Milton Erickson, right? And one of the pieces of one of the practices or techniques of NLP, if I've got it right, is modeling, which says you don't have to recreate everything. Go, figure a benchmark or somebody who's really good at what they do and go model that behavior. So
Yes.
Fritz Perls was, up there. There's a little bit of controversy around, but for a lot of people, it was up there, and he was a, advocator, made Gestalt what it is. So I also see you saying that you were modeling him, but that's something that didn't work for you. So if you could just speak to that a little bit. All right. So modeling. So NLP says that about modeling, and here's you trying to do modeling um, of your of someone you really look up to. So how does that work? Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, but then when you talk to me about modeling,
Hmm.
I will talk to you about a different person that I had the privilege to learn from, and I think he enriched me with such an important sentence
Hmm.
that for me it's the leading sentence as a therapist and as a teacher and as a lecturer.
Hmm.
I had the privilege to attend the last seminar that Carl Rogers did in La
Whoa,
Jolla.
too much. Okay.
And it was the last seminar that they did.
Yeah.
And I had the privilege to, as part of my training, I was, it
Mhm.
was like I was not aware that he was giving this seminar, but then somebody told me there is a last somebody dropped out. Would you like to join in? Poof, just join in. It was
Okay.
it was amazing seminar about empathy.
Mhm.
Well, empathy. By closing, you talked about client-centered therapy,
Yeah.
and I will never forget one thing. The
Uh-huh.
whole seminar, the whole seminar was worth for one sentence.
Hmm.
And the end of the seminar, I approached Carl Rogers and I said, Dr. Rogers, I want to share with you something. I'm so envious. I watched you doing the session with such a great skill of being empathetic towards your client.
Hmm.
I wish I could have that skill. I wish I could practice the way you do in such a beautiful, fluid, you know, being able to include your person and to be with the person the way you did. He looked in my eyes and he said to me this important sentence. He said, young man, I was quite young at that time. It was long time ago.
Okay.
See my hair, it was long time ago
Yeah.
when I was just the beginning of my career.
Okay.
And he said to me, young man, let me give you a piece of advice. Never try to be second somebody else. Be
Mm.
always first you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
That was so powerful.
Hmm.
I'll never forget that sentence because that was such a powerful sentence. Never try to be second somebody else. Be always first you. Meaning to say, hey, you're not Carl, I'm not
Mhm.
Yaron.
Mm.
You are who you are.
Mm.
So you'll have your own style, you have your own thing. And that really gave me a whole inspiration about when I see Fritz Perls doing Gestalt, when I see Joseph Zinker doing Gestalt, when I see Bob Resnick doing Gestalt, when my students do see me, and then now they try to imitate me. They tell me, I saw you, I want to be like you, Yaron. Then I remind them, no, 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 no. Don't be second somebody else, be always first
Mm.
you,
Yeah.
because everyone should have his own style. It should resonate with his or her personality, and that was so powerful about modeling. Yeah, that's the natural way of learning.
Mm.
One try, like we are little children. We try to learn by imitating. We learn by
Mm.
copying behavior. However, we need to integrate it with our own personality. I will
Mm.
never be Carl Rogers. I will never be Fritz Perls. I will never be Milton Erickson. I'm Yaron. You will never be Yaron. You're Greg Chapman. You will be who you are. So, in a way, you take all the autobiography of the masters you've encountered with,
Mm.
okay, and you see that you're not any one of them. You are a blended. You are a mixture of the influence that you took from your teachers, and you or organized it, and it really became something different that is a complete gestalt. You are different, and yet you could see bits of pieces like Fritz
Mm.
Perls or the whole gestalt therapy.
Mm.
You could see, in Fritz Perls, you could see influences of psychoanalysis. You could see of the Jonathan Smuts. You could see of Laura Pels, who became his wife later on. But you could see all the autobiography blended into what he formed as gestalt therapy. You go to me, so you see all the people that I've encountered for,
Mm.
and including CBT people, Albert Ellis, and you will see me with my Oriental meditation, meeting Bhagwan Rajneesh Osho,
Mhm.
okay, which is a great impact on my life.
Mm.
That's why I could never be like Fritz Perls, because he never encountered Osho. So it is a blended mixture of the people you and I encountered from and took inspiration from. And then there is this slide of, organizing the self in a very unique way that becomes to be first you and not second somebody else.
Yeah. I think very well put. Very well put. Um, Now, as you speak, I noticed that you've had the. I'm a little envious over here. You've had the good fortune of meeting all the greats, um, uh, who've hugely contributed to psychotherapy and psychology.
That's because I'm older than you and one dad.
Yeah.
That's all.
My question is this: what if, and what I'm also taking away is that it is important to see some masters at work, read the books, go see them. And what I am also taking away is that it's a tightrope walk, that on the one hand you need to see, absorb, learn, and on the other hand you can't just let it overpower your personality. You have to also let your piece, your potential, your uniqueness, um, come out, unfurl. Um, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. My question is this: for someone who does is I want to say not lucky, but who does not have the resources. Yes, YouTube is there, but um, it's a different thing of getting into a workshop and watching a master facilitate. For someone who does not have that opportunity, the resources for that opportunity, one, these masters, a lot of them are no more. Yes, today also has its masters, but a lot of times people don't have the opportunity of going to another place, but yet have the drive, the desire to learning. What's your what's your take? How should someone like that learn? How can someone like that learn?
Well, again, it's very challenging because there is no replacement from experiencing real when one is in a real workshop. You
Hmm.
know, you and I right now in Zoom session,
Hmm.
but it's not that I can shake your hand and I can hug you.
Hmm.
So it is virtual. See, I cannot smell you and I cannot taste you. And you
Hmm.
cannot do that well. So, and this is the reality. This is the reality. People are gone. I mean, I cannot go back and see Fritz Perls and his work and and other people that have been there. However, it is so important to really learn from watching a lot. Some people are the sons and the grandsons of these masters.
Hmm.
When you watch me work, you can see a combination of Fritz Perls, Milton Erickson, Albert Ellis, Osho. So yeah, you won't see them separately,
Hmm.
but I could tell you that when I did this exercise, that was taken from Carl
Hmm.
Rogers. That was
Hmm.
taken from Osho. That was taken, for example, when I do dance meditation, when I do part of the dynamic meditation they used to do in Pune, all right, in the morning. So the only way, I don't know, the only way, it's not the right word, but the most accessible way is to really read a lot
Hmm.
and also watch other people doing this.
Hmm.
Attend workshops and watch people doing it. For example, let me give you a simple thing. One of the most famous movies that you can see watching on YouTube is Gloria. Gloria
Hmm.
is a very famous movie
Yeah.
that you can see Carl Rogers,
Hmm.
Albert Ellis, and Fritz Perls
Hmm.
uh, working with the same client
Hmm.
and modeling the same different modalities. So
Hmm.
that teaches you a lot.
Yeah.
In the Institute of Psychotherapy in Arizona, Milton Erickson Institute, there are dozens of videos.
Hmm.
Irving Yalom was a
Hmm.
great colleague.
Hmm.
His son, Victor Yalom, is doing a lot of work right now in producing videos
Hmm.
of different psychotherapy. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just want to
So,
learn and
so,
learn and
so I
learn
just
and
want
watch and watch and watch and see different things.
to,
That's the
yeah,
way virtually. And I
yeah,
hope this pandemic will over so we could all
yeah.
attend physically the workshop because there is no replacement. But
Hmm.
in the meantime, just watch many videos.
Yeah. So just for our viewers, Gloria is a volunteer, and she volunteered to undergo therapy and get videotaped by Fritz Perls, one of the people who really advocated and got Gestalt really popular. So she's the same volunteer who went with Carl Rogers, another famous psychotherapist, and so on and so forth. So you can see different styles, same person, different styles, and I think God bless her for doing that. And then, of course, you mentioned Irving Yalom. I just wanted to
Yes.
call that out. Very influential person in Gestalt. For those of you who want to go and read up on Irving Yalom,
Irving Yalom is not in Gestalt.
is
Irving
not in
Yalom is
Gestalt,
in group therapy.
in group therapy. Okay. Okay. Yaron, so I'm correcting that. Irving Yalom, group therapy. Can Google that up. You've mentioned the COVID, right? Now, as hold on a second, I think we've. All right, Yaron. Sorry, the little technical glitch. Internet's not good today. You mentioned COVID and the whole pandemic, and see what's happened is, and I'm sure you're aware of this, is that teams in organizations, people who were working together, still working together, would very often meet over coffee and tea, beer, whatever. And a lot of the conflict that would get built up, a lot of the misunderstandings that would get built up, um, have because of those little meetings, have not had the chance. People haven't had the chance to talk about it and resolve or clean up the clogs. Now, teams coming out of the pandemic, just at the border of it. We're all emerging from that. Um, People want their teams, CEOs and leaders want their teams to get back together, to become more cohesive, resolve a lot of this conflict, talk it through, get over the stress. Is there anything from Gestalt, a technique? So I'm just going a little, um, I'm going down from a 50,000 foot view now to a granular kind of a thing. Is there a method that you would say is very useful uh, for a facilitator to use, especially if he's trying to get teams together and talk things up and clear the baggage that's been accumulated?
Well, let me share a little bit about the Gestalt approach.
Hmm. That would be
Gestalt
nice.
is
Yeah.
experimental psychotherapy.
Hmm.
So the slogan is, we don't talk about it, we experience it.
Hmm.
So it's very different. In my Gestalt way of teaching, we talk about the difference between neck up and neck down.
Hmm.
Neck up, it means that we move into thought, into thinking, into cognition. Neck down is moving to experiencing. And our basic approach is that change does occur out of experiencing, not out of understanding. People do understand, they can understand and become, very intellectual. However, they do not make a change. And what we do search is what really does create a change, how change does occur. And our basic approach is that change does occur out of experiencing and out of feeling and out of emotions involving and being involved, and not just by understanding. Because if only understanding was insufficient, so people who do understand that smoking cigarettes is dangerous would stop smoking. Or as you talked about my belly, I understand that bad eating habits are not good, but then it doesn't mean if I know about it, that means I'll stop it. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
mm. My belly shows it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, so the question will be, what will be the situation in order to have change to occur?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we do right now and during the pandemic. And when people do go through stress, fear, anxiety, uncertainty, the most important thing is not what not to do.
Hmm.
It's not talk about it, rather experiencing. Rather, experiencing takes creativity. For example, I'm just imagining a team that I work with right now. So,
Hmm.
if we do meet physically in a room, so what I would like them to experience it. Let me give you an example of
Hmm.
experiencing it. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
so I do ask them to write a letter. I do
Okay.
ask them to write a letter. Let's say that every emotion has a letter. So it starts like this. You come home and you see in your letter box 4 letters, and you
Hmm.
read the letters. One letter every day. One letter is from your anxious self. The other letter from your uncertain self. The other letter is from your stressful self. And the other letter is from the hope self. Yeah. And
What was the first self?
every
Sorry. Uncertain, stressful, hope. What was the first self you said?
anxious, anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah. And every part of our emotions is like writing a letter.
Hmm.
And it starts, I am the anxious
Hmm.
with you. I am the stress that you have. I
Hmm.
am the hope that you have. I
Hmm.
want to let you know that.
Hmm.
When the feeling and the emotion is writing a letter,
Hmm.
we hear it differently.
Hmm.
It becomes to be not talking about it,
Hmm.
but experiencing it.
Hmm.
Because then, and the best way, for example, the best way,
Hmm.
if we sit in a team, I give you the letter that I have written.
Hmm.
You read the letter, and then you read out the letter to me.
Okay.
When I sit like this, and listen, let's say you are my pair, you are
Hmm.
my partner,
Hmm.
and you read out the letter that I have written as
Hmm.
the stress,
Hmm.
as the hope.
Hmm.
And when I hear it, and in NLP we talk about auditory, kinesthetically, and visually.
Yeah.
So when I hear it,
Mm-hmm.
it does create emotional sensations in me. It does
Mm-hmm.
provoke feelings in me. For example, when I hear the hope self,
Mm-hmm.
that's completely different experience. Just naming it. Say, well, I wish I had hope. I wish, let's talk about stress.
Mm-hmm.
That brings it up from neck up to neck down. And then
Mm-hmm.
I read out to you your letter that you've written as the stressor in your time,
Mm-hmm.
in the pandemic. That's, for example, a simple exercise,
Mm-hmm.
which is so influential because
Wow.
we divide it into, every emotion or every reaction, human reaction has its own entity,
Mm-hmm.
and the entity has a speech, has a monologue. All right. And then the second part of it is that I read out to you all the four letters,
Mm-hmm.
one after the other,
Mm-hmm.
and I ask you to which letter your body reacted
Mm-hmm.
strongly.
Mm.
See what is how you prioritize. Which letter spoke to you the best,
Mm-hmm.
and then what will be your response letter to this? How would you respond to this letter?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different dialogue because it's not done from the cognition, it's done for experiencing, right? And then you can have a dialogue between two members
Mm-hmm.
in the team. That one, for example, you identified strongly with the hope self, and the
Mm-hmm.
other identified strongly with the anxious self. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have these two members and have exchange their letters.
Mm-hmm.
I give you the letter the hope, and you give me the letter of anxiety, and I become the hope, which was your letter,
Mm-hmm.
to adapt into mine. And
Mm-hmm.
your hope letter becomes to be my letter.
Mm-hmm.
I encounter different aspects in me because I encounter with you. It creates a completely different dynamics. And that's part of what we call the Gestalt experiments. By the way, NLP took from Gestalt. John Grinder was one of the founders of NLP, said that all the part language,
Mm-hmm.
there is a part of me, there is a part of me, there is a part of me. We talk about the self. That's taken from Gestalt approach.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings it into a very neck down level and very experiential. And then your body sensation can tell you what can you do about it, how you can. And then the next level could be, for example, express it with a voice. How would you voice out stress?
Mm-hmm.
How would you voice out anxiety? How would you voice out anger,
Mm-hmm.
frustration? And how would you voice out hope?
Mm.
The
Wow.
moment you involve different aspects, different dimensions,
Mm-hmm.
like voicing, moving, completely different thing.
Absolutely. So, viewers, listeners, this is something you might want to rewind and go back to. So, very quickly to summarize, three parts to this. Part one, you write letters as if you're getting a letter in your mailbox from your anxious self, so your anxious self is talking to you, your uncertain self, your stressed out self, and your hope self is talking to you. So you write out four different letters, and then you pair up and you give your letters to somebody else, and somebody else gives their letters to you, and there is a reading first. uh, your partner would first read the anxious letter, then you would do the same all the way down to the four pieces, and then the second phase is, you would ask, as a facilitator, you'd ask a participant saying, hey, which one did you identify with most? And you look for some kind of polarities where someone said, I identified with the stress letter the most, and somebody else says, I identified with the hope self the most. And then you jam them together and get them to, uh, exchange letters and have a dialogue. Is that about it? Did I miss something?
Very, very good listening skills, Craig.
Okay. Thank you. I think so. Yeah, 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 yeah. Good, good, good. This, I think this is a really powerful exercise. I think I can envision this, working out. And thank you, Yaron. I'm sure people can just go and um, apply this in their.
Let me give you another version of this.
Okay, okay,
Okay, let me give you another
super.
version of this.
Yeah,
Uh,
bonus
it,
material
it,
coming
uh,
up. Yeah.
we're using what the traffic light is.
Hmm.
Traffic light is, traffic lights is a
Yeah,
great
red,
signal.
amber, green.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so and you give every self a
Hmm.
color.
Hmm.
Like the hope self becomes to be blue, the anxious becomes to be red, and
Hmm.
then you take different colors,
Hmm.
or you in crayons, or either you color them, or
Hmm.
you take different colors, and
Hmm.
then you put them on the floor
Hmm.
in the room,
Hmm.
and you walk. The moment you walk on a blue
Hmm.
color,
Hmm.
that reminds you of a hope self. Then you
Hmm.
need to speak of the hope self. And
Hmm.
then you walk to the other corner of the room
Hmm.
and you see green. So
Hmm.
you speak, and you need to speak as part of the stressful center.
Hmm.
Then you cover on the all four corners of the room
Hmm.
with different colors, and
Hmm.
you need to speak as their ambassador.
Okay.
Now you have a team
Hmm.
that has to go the whole round.
Hmm.
So even if you identify with a certain self,
Hmm.
one needs to go through the whole, explore the whole
Hmm.
aspect. So
Hmm.
one can experience the whole different selves. So the moment I go for one corner and I step on a blue
Hmm.
color,
Hmm.
I need to speak of the hope, even if it's difficult for me. I identify more with the stress, right?
Hmm.
But the moment I step on the blue color,
Hmm.
I have to speak from the hope. The
So,
moment I,
so
the moment
speaking.
I,
Mhm. Sorry, but speaking just to understand this. So speaking from the hope would be
giving the
hi.
monologue.
Yeah, hi. This is the hope part of Greg, and
Yes,
I'm
yes,
saying that there is hope. Whatever.
exactly.
Get
Giving a
out of.
monologue.
Okay.
But then if you
Okay.
walk in different parts of the room, you explore all the different selves
Mhm.
according to the colors. And
Mhm.
what happens is that it is embedded in you,
Mhm.
because then you can go home and put in the smartphone and color it and as blue. This day is going to be total blue. The
Mhm.
moment you color it, it's association. In Gestalt, it's called proximity.
Mhm.
And when you see the blue, you're
Mhm.
automatically reminded of a hope.
Mhm. Okay.
So the whole day goes back with the moments like a traffic light, red, yellow, and the green. Then you have different colors, which associated with different emotions.
Mhm.
And the moment you go home or you go to work, say today I'm going to put the blue to have my watch or to have my diary color with blue.
Mhm.
And all day long I'm reminded about the using the hope self.
So, but would this only be applicable for hope, or would I also change color
No,
to, let's say, red, or today or you
of
would not
course,
want to do that?
of course,
No? Good.
every emotions and every part of self gets a different color.
So if
So you
let's say
explore
red
different
is,
colors.
so let's say red is anger. So are you saying that I'm
Yes,
going to go throughout this day being angry?
yes, and just
Oh,
explore it. What it does to you.
mm-hmm.
What it does to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment you're willing to explore that, you can see, because it's natural. It's natural. It is part of it. It's okay to have anger.
Mm-hmm.
But
So are you?
then if you see red, you can like you can volume it.
Mhm.
If you experience the red, and then
Okay, so again, glitch, we're back. Um, so when you're saying red on diary, let's say I've crayoned it red. So I'm saying I will be angry today, or am I saying I'm feeling angry today? That's what.
I'm reminded of the anger that is natural. So whenever I see I'm angry, I can remind the color.
Mhm.
This is the red. I can recognize the red, and
Mhm.
then I'm in charge. I can add blue.
Mhm.
When I add blue, I mix it together, and then I become the manager of my emotions. My
Mhm.
emotions don't take over me. It's not overwhelming. I'm not. I am in control of my emotions. The emotions do not control me.
Mhm. Sure. Um,
Like a traffic light, And the traffic light, as the car, you're a driver of the car, you are not in charge of the traffic light, right? The traffic light tells you where to stop and where to go. In this case, we have a personal traffic light.
A personal
I
traffic.
call that a personal guidance.
You're calling that a personal
So
traffic.
I am in charge of which color I do choose now to show.
Mhm. You're in charge of which color you now choose to show. That's amazing. Um, how do you figure out which color you're going to put on the uh, on your diary? Is it just depending on how you're feeling? That's what you put, or
Yeah,
you
well,
just
you just choose colors to different emotions. Like I chose blue to hope. You can
Mhm.
choose blue to anger. Blue doesn't go regularly
Sure,
with anger.
sure, it doesn't.
But
But my question is slightly different. I'm saying whatever you're feeling, the moment you come to your diary, is that the color you put down, or you pre-schedule it, saying on Monday my diary is going to be blue.
no, you cannot pre-schedule it. You
Mhm,
cannot pre-schedule it. You just
mhm,
follow what's is present for you, and you're noticed, and you're aware of which emotion is right now present to you,
mhm,
and then you can ask yourself what. First of all, recognize it,
mhm,
acknowledge it, and then see what I want to do about it.
mhm,
Let's say it's pandemic. I come home. I know my children are at school, are not at school. They're in Zoom. They're learning from home. I could get really stressed out by them, right and fighting each other. So I can foresee that I'm going to get angry when I come home.
mhm,
As I'm aware of that, I can look at the red color and say,
mhm,
okay, let me do something. I am in charge of my own personal traffic light.
mhm,
I can I can really mingle it with a blue thing.
mhm,
Take a blue thing, for example, oh, it's temporarily, one cannot be now be authoritative and setting boundaries as the normal time. This is pandemic, they're out of school, and then it gives more flexibility. And when I enter the house and I open the door, I am in a mix of blue and red, which
mhm,
of course does give me the opportunity not to just to burst into
mhm.
anger.
I'm going to combine what you said earlier to this. Tell me if I'm mangling it or really not getting it right. But like, so the whole idea is you have your personal traffic light, and let's say you come home and you see your kids, and something frustrates you, whether they're in class, at home, fighting, or something frustrates you. And so part one is becoming aware of the traffic light. I am red. And then maybe what is my red self saying? And then exploring the yellow light, and what is my yellow self saying? um, and then exploring the um, green light. What is my green self saying? So I was just quickly recapping that the traffic light, my own personal traffic light, I like that idea. You come back home, you get stressed. You can then, say, what is my red self saying? And then ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
what is my yellow self saying? What is my
Yeah.
green self saying? And in doing so, you're saying that your mood changes. And if
And then I could ask you, so what am I going to do about it?
mm,
I mean, the traffic light is not in charge of me. I'm in charge of my traffic light. So
that's
what can I do about it? How can I what color can I blend into the color that is right now in order to be able to cope with the situation better?
mm, that's very interesting. Yaron, you've given so much and given so freely. I'm really touched. One final piece in concluding, is there any kind of message that you'd like to give facilitators out there just getting into the game or tenured? Is there any kind of message that you'd like to leave them with before we go?
Yeah, I will give you my own version of what Carl Rogers taught me.
Hmm.
If you really want to work with people, be authentic, be real, be you, be direct but not blunt, be compassionate, and just love what you do and do what you love.
Thank you so much, Yaron. It's been such a pleasure. I have about 25, 26 unanswered questions. I'm not going to ask them right now, but looking forward to having you on the show sometime later. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Greg. It's been a
Mhm.
pleasure.
Likewise. Take care.
Thank you.